My name is Joseph Lyon. I'm the owner and CEO at MyHR Pros, and I'm here to share some HR insights with you and your management team. When I hear a company is having a retention problem, typically in my experience, the root cause is one of three things. It's either bad management, it's a toxic culture, or maybe less than competitive wages. I know that one of my good employees is probably going to leave when they come in to see me and they start asking for opportunities within the company. Maybe they apply for other positions. So for me, I consider that to be the earliest warning sign that, they're looking at, if I don't discover what it is they're looking for, they're likely going to be gone in the near future. So if your time's limited and you can only fix one thing this quarter within your company, I would say either work on your culture or do some interviews with your team to understand what their needs are. And so that way you can really hone in on what core issues you may have within your company. If I'm having problems with my turnover and trying to discover if it's bad management, if I'm hiring the wrong people, or if I'm not paying enough, the first thing that I do is I want to do stay interviews. Yeah, I can talk to my team as they exit and try to get feedback from them, but honestly, they're gone. They're not coming back. It's the team members that are here currently that I want to keep here. So I'm going to take some time to do stay interviews and find out what's going on, and that way I can correct the problem. Any good employee wants to be recognized for their hard work. Now, the key is when you're recognizing that hard work, you're genuine. Nobody wants fake recognition, an attaboy that's really not your real feelings. So when you're giving recognition to your team, always be genuine in that recognition. The easiest way to give genuine feedback is when something good happens in that moment, say something then. That way it's, very applicable. It is not getting passed up. So, don't wait for later, recognize now. I think it's safe to say that for every company, there's always perceptions of unfairness. It's really hard to keep all things equal, if you will. One of the big items is rewards. When you're talking about bonus or some sort of compensation that is based on performance, it's really hard to keep it fair. To me, the biggest way to try to be consistent is think of the items in terms of return on investment and do something sort of percentage based. So I know if you're doing something that's netting me $1,000, I may do 100. If you're doing something that's netting me $10,000, I may do 1,000. And that way it's as consistent as I can make it to be fair, but at the same time being a percentage of the full return. If you're a company that has benefits, you have an advantage because that is going to be positive in retaining your team members. Everybody wants to work for a company that has great benefits. However, knowing what benefits matters really comes down to the individual employee. For me, if I'm younger, earlier in my life without issues, it may be different than somebody that's older that has more medical needs. And so understanding what value your benefits brings really comes down to understanding your team and what their desires and wishes and needs are. What does pay transparency mean on a practical level? To me, it's as simple as you do this, you get paid this. And it's across the board for that position. And that way it's equal, it's transparent, and you know what you're going to get for what you put in. We talked a little bit about pay transparency. I want to talk about pay equity. To me, pay equity differs in that it's about what you're paying for what you're getting out of that effort. So for me, if I have an employee that is doing something that's a really high return, I need to pay them more to be more equitable. If I'm paying somebody less, that's a much higher return for me, then that's not equitable. So pay equity is making it comparable for the value that their work is bringing into your company. When you're auditing how much you're being compensated for your position, and the most practical way to go about adding that up is do some math, account for your base wage, your benefits. If there's kind of intangibles like time off, place a value on that. And that way you can actually add up and total up what is that total value for your position and compare that to maybe another opportunity to assess what's the better fit for you and what you value personally. If somebody comes to me and says, I love the work, but I can't afford to stay here any longer, the first question I'm going to ask them is, can you share more? I need more information to discern, understand what's going on. Is it their base pay? Is it a benefit? What is the underlying issue? The second question I'm going to ask is it something to do with your work? Who you're working with, what you're working on? Is it something completely outside of work? Something I can't control? I need to understand whether or not that's the case. The third and last question that I would ask is, can I change one thing that would make you stay? And if so, what is that one thing? If a manager comes to me and says, I can't keep my team members, they're all leaving, they don't want to work, I'm going to ask, what's the pattern? What are the reasons being given by the employees that are leaving? Because to me, there's probably one underlying reason, and you just need to look at that pattern to understand what it is. If some of this resonated with you, but you feel like you need more assistance, contact My HR Pros. We'd be happy to help you and your team.